So welcome back to another episode. Welcome to some games I hate. And I gotta tell you, I love doing these episodes because on the Happy Console Gamer Show here, I talk about a lot of games that I love. So it's very nice to go the opposite way and talk about some games that I played when I was younger that I did not like, that I hated in fact. And I'll get into all the reasons why I particularly hate these games. And hate is a very strong word, as I say, but I think you will understand where I'm coming from for my personal feelings on these games. And I'm gonna ask you guys, what are some games that you hate? Some action games, some RPG, some game that you really wanted to be a fan of, you really wanted to love, and everything was against it for you. You're like, nope, this is not the game for me. Let me know what that game is down below. And I'm gonna have a lot of fun here in memory lane, going back to some times in my life where I played some games that I hated. Now, to begin with, this is a cheap shot. This is a cheap shot that I'm gonna do, and I don't care because I've never really addressed the reasons why I don't like the game. It is the black sheep in the family of one of my favorite video game series of all time, and that is Phantasy Star. Obviously, it's not Phantasy Star 1, it's not Phantasy Star 2, it's not Phantasy Star 4 either. What does that leave? Oh my god, I know, I'm gonna do it. Phantasy Star 3, Generations of Doom. Okay, come back with me. Come back to July 1991 for a split second, and I gotta tell you where I was at in my life at the time. I was a big video game player, huge Phantasy Star fan, and I had been reading that Phantasy Star 3 was coming out, and I could not believe it. I mean, the hype for 2 alone on the Genesis was massive. Never mind the third game coming. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my god, it's coming out this summer. Something happened to me though. I failed my math class for the year. Yes, I was 17 years old, and I had a hard time with math. I was always really good in English and arts, but math was never my strong suit, and I failed the class, and I had to do something. I had to take summer school. Yes, that amazing summer school, and I was doing that every single day, and I gotta say, the summer school was good for me. I started to kind of really figure out the math that I was kind of like failing throughout the year. One-on-one was really good with a teacher. It really helped me out. But I was going to school every day in the summer. In the summer. It was really kind of nuts for the morning. Where one morning, I came back, got on the bus, came back home. I walked in, and we had ordered this game months ahead of time. And back in the 90s, I mean, things would just show up or they wouldn't. It would take sometimes 3 months for a video game to show up. I swear to God, things were ridiculous back then. You didn't have any Amazon, nothing like that. So I came home, and I decided to check the mailbox, see if there's anything there. So, and this was there. And I'll never forget the excitement of a guy who's going to summer school, who's not too happy. It's a beautiful day outside, and I pull this out of the postbox. I'm like, oh my God, it's Phantasy Star 3. And I remember my parents were at work, nobody was home. I ran into the basement, and I've told this story many times, what I would do with the video game back then. I'd always close all the blinds. That was done. I'd make some tea. I'd make a cigarette back then, because my parents had a cigarette making machine, because I smoked. It was crazy. I sat down to have this experience. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why I don't like Phantasy Star 3, and the reasons why I particularly hate it in a lot of ways. Right? I want to give you the perspective of being back then. Now, over time, I've mellowed on it a little bit, for sure. Even I had COVID, and I was really nostalgic about this game. That's how sick I was. That's how much of a fever I had. But I want to say, when I came into the basement, and I was like, here we go. Here, I'm going to have this experience. I put it in the Genesis, and it started. And I just want to say this much. The opening title sequence felt like a funeral. The music, it was so lame. It didn't really start off with a big bang or anything exciting or anything like that. It just kind of was there, and I'm like, oh boy, this is really dingy. It just really was a bummer of an opening. It didn't get me excited. I'm like, Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I will start the game. And I start the game and the music starts and I'm like, this sounds like carnival music. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't like this particularly. The graphics were so bland, and Phantasy Star 2 had some really detailed graphics, great character sprites, stuff like that. This game was like a bare bones minimum for creating a Phantasy Star game. I noticed that right off the bat, and the music starts once again, and I'm gonna go meet my soon-to-be wife. I'm like, okay. Now, I'm not saying anything, but as a 17-year-old guy, I was not really into the beginning of an RPG starting off getting married. It was like super lame. I wanted explosions, I wanted robots, I wanted epicness. And I put this game in and I got a marriage and I'm like, what? This is not what I wanted. And just the music, everything was just so lame. And then all of a sudden, you're getting to a point where you get married, and then this creature comes in and steals your wife, and then they lock you up in a dungeon so you cool off. And then you just kind of let out. And I'm like, this is so weird. And just the whole look of the game, everything was like medieval. There was no technology at that point. Yes, all of a sudden, you go to an underground dungeon, and the music, I gotta say, I really like the dungeon music in the game. All of the other music, I do not care for at all. But the dungeon music was pretty good. And I'm like, wow, it's so weird that it's so technological underneath all the cities and stuff like that. Obviously, no spoilers. There's a reason why later on that you figure out. Like later on in the story. But I'm like, okay, so then it's like typical RPG fare. You're going from town to town, leveling up, stuff like that. And it's okay. But I gotta say, getting to combat, the one thing it had over Phantasy Star 2 was backgrounds. Okay, Phantasy Star 2 didn't have the backgrounds because they were trying to save room on the cartridge itself, so they didn't put any backgrounds in there. It's so ridiculous. They just had this grid, where in Phantasy Star 3, we got some backgrounds again. But here's the thing, we're coming from Phantasy Star 1 to Phantasy Star 2. When we get to Phantasy Star 3, I just thought the enemies were super lame. Like, super lame. And the animation on the attacks and stuff were so, oh my god. I remember listening to the music and I was in combat and I'm like, ugh. I remember, I'm not joking, super disappointed. Like going, like seething a bit, going, what is this? What have I gotten into? What have they done? Why is this not Phantasy Star? It felt like a very generic RPG. It didn't feel like the next big Phantasy Star thing. Yes, it was by a team that had nothing to do with Phantasy Star. Isn't that ridiculous? They just kind of said, okay, you guys go and do this. And yeah, it's all about getting married in the game, the next generations, things like that. Generations of Doom. This has been a generation of doom for me, thinking about this game. I mean, oh my god. The combat was bad, but the one thing that I always remember was this one enemy I get to, and it's pretty big on the screen. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And it's just wiggling its finger like this as its attack. And I was completely out. I was completely out of the game. And yes, I passed summer school that year, and I passed math, you know, and I did get through Phantasy Star 3, but at what cost? I mean, the game was so generic. The one thing that I did enjoy as well was the androids, like Ren. I liked the robots in the game. I thought that was cool. I thought the artwork was okay, but it just was not a past Phantasy Star games. We're not building. We should have been over here, and we were just kind of here. And very disappointing game, very disappointing. Yes, as I say, I got to the end of summer, and I finished the game, and the ending makes up for it. In a lot of ways, it kind of does. And I won't ruin it. I haven't ruined it on the show in all these years. But yeah, the ending makes up for it. It makes it a little bit better. But I remember slogging through this game going, when will it all end? When will it get better? I remember wondering, maybe there's bits that are going to really blow me away. Graphic-wise and stuff. No, it was all pretty generic the whole way through. And yes, is it nostalgic? Yes, it is. But I remember putting this on the shelf I'm going, I hate this game. What have they done to my beloved Phantasy Star series? Always the black sheep. Everybody will tell you that. But there is some highlight moments in it. If you are a fan of the series, you do have to play it to see where the storyline goes. And the storyline is kind of interesting. I won't say any more. Very Matrixy in a way, kind of. And so, anyways, that is Phantasy Star 3, Generations of Doom. My God. Now, strangely enough, we're going to take a little bit of a break from bashing on some of the Phantasy Star series, but I'm going to come back to it. I'm coming back to it. Seriously, yeah, you're like, what the heck? I'm coming back after this next game. Oh my God. And where I first played this, the only place I played it was at my friend Gary's place. A good friend of mine. We were making movies back in the day together, all sorts of stuff, silly skits, all that stuff. And he got an Xbox back in the day. And I remember going over there and playing it all the time. It was really cool. At that point, I didn't have my own Xbox. And he got a demo of a game that I thought I was going to be very, very interested in. Now, I just want to say, I had to pick this game up off eBay. And I would not buy a good physical copy of it because I dislike it that greatly that I don't want it on the shelf. I don't even want to see it near all these like classic, wonderful games. So I went to my friend Gary's place. We're playing this game, the demo, one day. And I remember being so appalled by it. I mean, yeah, using that term. I was just like, what is this? What have they done? What have they done? I just want to say I was a big fan of Robotech. I gotta say that before I get to this. A big fan of the Robotech series, an anime series that was translated, brought over here. 3 series that were unrelated series, but they put all together and put up into a show called Robotech and kind of made the storylines meld together. Bit sloppy, but you know, back then we took the sloppy seconds and we just loved it because that's all we had. And so I was a big fan of Macross, and guess what? They released a pretty okay Macross Robotech game, Robotech Battle Cry. It wasn't perfect by any means, but you know what? I had a bit of fun playing this game. It wasn't bad. So, being a big fan of Robotech, one of my favorite bits in Robotech was the next generation, the last bit in the saga of Robotech. And I want to pull some of this stuff out right here. Oh my God. Just to show you how much of a fan I have been over the years. All the books, everything I can get my hands on. Big fan of the last bit in Robotech, which is also known in Japan as Maspida. I have loved this series so much. I collect so much for it. I have all the DVDs of it. I even have the translated Japanese version of the DVDs. Loved it. And I gotta say this much. I can't show any of the footage from the anime. I can't because it's to do with Robotech, and that's owned by Harmony Gold. And let me say this, Harmony Gold, I don't think likes me too much. I don't think they do. And you're like, what? You're a nice guy. Why would this big company dislike you so much? Because I've hated the mismanagement, what they've done with Robotech and the Macross saga over the years. They've held it with an iron fist. They never let Macross come to this country. Yes, I know. So many people wrote to me and said, hey, Johnny, they've changed that now. You know, Macross is coming into this country. For me, it's a little too late. I already imported all the discs and all of that, the Blu-rays. I paid a hefty price for all that a long time ago. A little too late for me. A little too late for me. But, you know what? Back in the early 2000s, I wasn't as bitter as I am now to do with Harmony Gold. So I was quite excited to see that this game was coming out, and we get to play the demo of it, as I say, at my friend's Gary's place. Robotech Invasion. Look at this copy that I got here. I was not going to buy a beautiful copy. There's no way. What is so bad about this game? Everything is so bad about this game. And I want to say something that I've only ever played the demo, and I dislike the demo so much. A demo should sell you on something, but I remember riding around in my armor and stuff like that and transforming, and I hated it. I just thought it was stupid fighting into it. Oh, okay. The story of Maspida, the last part in Robotech, is that the Earth is invaded by some aliens called the Invid, and it completely takes over the entire planet. Mankind has to leave the Earth, okay? They go and live on Mars for a while. And, a bunch of generations later, they build a huge armada to go back to Earth and to reclaim the Earth from the Invid. And a few of the troopers get through and make their way to Reflex Point, which is the main central hive of the Invid. And the anime is really good. I really like it. It's kind of a road trip and all the crazy things that happen to these characters on the way to Reflex Point. It's great stuff. So this takes place within the war, and you're using your main character. My problem happened to begin with. I'm playing the full game. I've never played the full game. I want to say that. I want to play the demo. I just was going to come in and bash the demo, but I'm like, no, we're going to play the full game. We're going to play it. Oh my God. Do you know what happened to me? You crash land to begin with. It's the middle of the battle of, for Earth, and you're running around, as your old trooper, and I couldn't get past this one point. And I was freaking out. I was capturing footage the other day. I'm like, why can't I get past this one point? I had to go online to see. Get this. In the first 30 seconds of the game, it glitched. So there's this one, kind of like side of a mountain, kind of a hill, I should say. It was there. It should blow up. I saw somebody playing the game because I was losing my mind. I'm like, how do I get out of this circle? I was going around in circles. I couldn't get out. And it's telling me to go to, the Reflex Point to destroy it, the hive. I'm like, I can't get there. Why can't I get there? And I was losing my mind. This is not even what I want to come into to rant and rave about to begin with. So what I had to do? I had to reset the game. I ran towards it, and it exploded normally, as it should. The game is so bad that in the first 30 seconds, it glitched on me. I couldn't believe it. And then you're running around, and you're fighting Invid after Invid. Very uninspired. It just feels like you're underwater. The controls are terrible. But the one thing that started in the beginning of this game that was driving me crazy as well, the music, was these beating drums that, I swear to God, lent nothing to the game at all. I was like, who made the soundtrack to this? Why do we have this soundtrack? It is so ill-fitting for Maspida. And I'm a big fan of the anime. I'm going, why has he got these weird jungle beats? It doesn't make any sense at all. And you're just going fighting Invid after Invid after Invid. And even in the beginning, you don't even have your cycle. I'm like, oh my God, I was just droning out. The thing is, you're just not having fun. It's just not fun. Even if you're a person who loved the source material as much as I did, I could not even enjoy the first 5 minutes of the game. It felt like the demo again. I even thought the demo was a little bit more fun to begin with, and then I didn't like the demo. You're kind of running around doing all this stuff. So finally you get your ride armor, you put it on, you get to kind of ride up above and transform. That's kind of cool, but there's just realistically no point to it all. You're just droning through level after level, transforming. Sometimes you can't transform, sometimes you can. And it's just not a good legacy to Maspida, an anime that I absolutely adore, something I really, really like from my childhood. And I just didn't think that they did a good job. And kind of after this, the whole Robotech video game thing kind of went away, and people weren't into it anymore. It just kind of stopped at that point. And I blame it on this game. What an atrocity. And a game that I really hate. I really don't like this game at all. Like, bye-bye. That's the end of that. Okay, we're away from that game. Thank God. We are on to the last game that I hate. And I gotta say something here. I really hate this game. I really, really do. Because it's a Phantasy Star game. And that alone is insane. Because I absolutely adore the Phantasy Star series. As you know, 3 notwithstanding. But all of a sudden, in the year 2000, we went to Phantasy Star Online. I've done so many videos about it, talking about my experiences playing it for like 750 hours, playing Phantasy Star 1, version 2, and episodes 1 and 2 on the GameCube. I loved this series. I loved it to death. So could you imagine again my excitement when they say there's a 3rd game coming? I'm like, oh my God, PSO 3, yes, this is gonna be amazing. And then I find out it is Phantasy Star Online Card Revolution Episode 3. Oh God, no, we did not want this. I did not want this. I wanted the next Phantasy Star game. I didn't want a card game. Okay, you know how we all have our quirks. Here's one of mine. I know this is a kind of a crazy one. A lot of people like card games, and I want to say to begin with, if you like card games, I totally understand. My wife does, my mom does, my sister does. Love playing cards. I, for some reason, have never liked cards. I absolutely just hate playing cards in any regard. It's just not for me. And when all of a sudden, my next generation Phantasy Star Online game, which I think is going to be the third game, is a card game, oh my god, I was not into that. Let me recover all these cards here. Yeah, I was so disappointed in the game, and let me say they took a lot of assets out of, obviously, episodes 1 and 2, and they got a small team together. I think the thing is, it's just reused assets in a cheap way, and such a boring way. We have a grid, you bring your characters on, and you fight, and then enemies show up. It is so slow and so methodically lame that I just checked out in the first 5 minutes. I'm like, I can't do this. Why did they release this? It's a cheap cash-in, and for anybody who enjoys the game, I'm happy for you, I really am. But where I was coming from with the Phantasy Star series, this was not the game I was hoping it would be. And when I saw it was a card game, I've never liked cards video games over the years, like Arcana, I remember that, I did not like that too much. This was a Phantasy Star game that was an absolute disaster for me, and yes, I bought it. Did I know what it was going to be? I thought it was going to be a little bit more fun than what it was. I mean, and yes, you can play online with your friends and stuff. I didn't have any friends that wanted to play this game. Just be joking. You know, everybody wanted to play Phantasy Star Online and go and fight monsters together in a really kind of fun way, not sit in a grid-based way going, select card, select card, select card. Oh, it was so methodically lame, and I absolutely hate this game. I mean, I really, really do. So I'm gonna end it there. I'm actually all worked up now. I'm actually all really kind of mad, and I'm not joking. I'm actually got myself riled up through this episode, thinking about games that I really wanted to enjoy. Some games that I really love the originals, right? And I really love the original source material. And they didn't deliver with some of the sequels, and that they were just cheap cash-ins on a series, and it really made me mad. It really upset me as a fan. Has that happened to you guys? Is there any games that you hate? Let me know in the comments below. So anyways, guys, until next time.